Is science spiritual? I mean, I'm no crazy super guru. I don't claim to know everything. I'm not a super academic by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm a really curious person and I read a lot from all different sides. And what I've found is, or what I was completely overwhelmed by all of the information out there, whether it be from a super materialist point of view and if you do this, you'll be happy, or whether it be from the slightly more far-fetched spiritual perspectives, which can go very far, basically. So I felt really overwhelmed between those two polarities and the amount of information that was out there. So today we're going to go through a discussion of my thoughts that I've written down here that I've been having recently about spirituality. And in my opinion, science is meeting mysticism, and they're getting much closer together than I think the scientists would have you believe. And maybe they're even catching up with the mystics. So let's go into it. There are so many different ways and angles to understand spirituality. But fundamentally, the way that I understand it is that there's more than what we can see. And science agrees with this. You know, we are the visible light that we are in, or we observe, is only 0.0035% of what everything that is really there. So what is going on in the rest of the stuff that we can't sense in the five senses and we can't touch? And really that's what spirituality says, is that there's a lot of other things that have influence over us, the immaterial, that has the power over the physical and everything that happens here in this space. And so really, I don't follow any creed, I don't follow any religion, I read everything, and I try and take the themes and the concepts that come from everywhere. So I might be slightly loose with certain things, but really what I'm trying to get at is the themes and concepts that run throughout everything. And as the Buddha said, all paths lead to enlightenment, or as the Romans said, all paths lead to Rome. And so for me, the foundation of everything that we're going to be talking about is this understanding of the relationship between the material and the immaterial, you know, the soul and the body, or the thoughts. You know, thoughts are immaterial as well. And so science often denies the immaterial and it sticks to being a very material, rational, logical point of view. And there's absolutely so much that we've got out of that and we can understand, but it's also led to not so many happy people around the world. And really, you know, this understanding of what is exoteric, what is outside of you, or what is esoteric and inside of you, this knowledge of both is going to be really key to living a fulfilled life. Because if it really were simply exoteric, then the richest people with the most things, they would be the happiest people, or the academics that know the most, that can go through everything, and they know everything, but they don't seem to be happy either. So I think it's this understanding that there's an esoteric balance within us, that's where the balance needs to be found to live a satisfying, fulfilling life. And Buddha himself, he mentioned that release from attachment is going to lead to not having as much pain and suffering, and enlightenment is or not having that pain and suffering that we go through, the release from that. And I think it's incumbent upon us to realize all the things that Plato was saying a long time ago with the allegory of that Plato's allegory with the cave, and start realizing what he was talking about with spirit, the fire that is projecting through the figures and then leaving that mask, or not the mask, but the shadows on the wall there. And so a lot of us are really not aware of this huge extra reality that is out there, or within us, as some might say. And we reduce our reality to what we can see, touch, taste, hear, and smell, and those kind of things. So let's jump into it. I mean, first of all, what does science say, and why is it coming closer? Why do I say that? Let's think about quantum physics. quantum physics basically says that everything is a wave, and the observer effect, only through the act of observation does something become real, or does something appear, or everything before that is complete possibility. Now, that is absolutely outrageous, and it's really hard for us to understand and conceptualize that in our brain. And really, it's not that far away from what spirituality has been saying. Also, think about the nature of our reality with the double slit experiment. Have a look at that, because that will blow your mind. And we also have a lot of other newer ideas, such as the electric universe, or that everything is electromagnetic. But I think one thing that we can say, and the theme throughout this, is science more and more is realizing that what we took for granted in terms of matter and things we can see, touch and feel and all that, there is a lot more going on outside there. And that leads me to one of the most profound areas or pieces of teaching that I took in that really changed the way that I view the world. And these are the Hermetic principles. And guess what? Would you have it that number one is everything is mental? You know, the number one principle is the universe is mental. And really, it goes on to a lot deeper. But I think the key thing to understand about Hermetic principles is they're thousands of years old, and they've helped shape so many different movements and even religions, or even cults, or whatever it might be, esoteric thinking and understanding of our universe, these 7 principles that run throughout. But I'm just focusing on number one today. And it's really exciting if you stop and think about it, because, you know, the mental aspect is up here, and that influences the physical plane. And if you think about it, it's true, because all of the things that we live around today, someone imagined this red robe, and then they made it a reality. So first things take here, and in the cause, and then the effect is in this physical world. Basically, these are the key ideas that the Hermetic principles talk about, and I'm going to go into those in a lot more detail in future videos. But that's a good start, is understanding that. And humans, according to these teachings, they have the power of creation, and they have the power to rise. And if you think about it, we have access to that immaterial realm, and we also have souls. And so we have the ability to rise through and supersede and raise our frequency in the power of creation. And this is where you hear people talk about manifestation. I'm also going to speak about that in future videos. But the problem that we have to acknowledge, that we're prescribed often today, is we have an addiction to the material. And often science promulgates this, really, you know. And what that happens, you know, the Muslims called this the Dunya. The Hindus called it the Maya, the illusion, that everything isn't here. And again, that agrees with the Hermetic principles. And that's in direct contrast to what science basically says, which is everything has to be, you know, epistemologically, or rather, I've forgotten the exact word, but it has to empirically tested and observed. So what that does, according to these teachings, is it puts the ego in overdrive. It puts the ego in the front seat, and the ego is only obsessed with the material and the physical and around you, and safety and fear and all these kind of things. And it lives in your past, and it lives in your future. It was worrying about everything that you did in the past that could have been better, and it's also worrying about the future, that, oh, what if I have enough supplies? And so it becomes this kind of beast or thing inside of you. And if you look into the term egregore, ultimately what it is an egregore, which is something that is that you're feeding in the spiritual realm, and it only grows if you feed it attention. Okay, and once you fed it, and once it becomes this separate entity in the mental plane, it has its own thoughts, desires, not necessarily thoughts and desires, but it acts as an entity with its own will, and it wants to survive, of course. So it wants to keep you to keep feeding it. And what we've got to do is understand that that is a phantom self, and that if we can be in the present, we can absolutely escape the trouble that we get there. And the key is not to try and kill it, because then we're also going to be super attached to trying to kill it. It's just don't feed it. Don't pay it attention. Let it die by being in the present and being aware and knowing that you can influence the world around you. When you're sitting in this moment right now, you don't need to worry about things. You can go any direction you want. And if you have enough conviction, you can really start doing some special things in this world. So also we can get, and I see this a lot with spiritual people, is like craving to get rid of it. And that's not the goal. Just let it be. Let it be. And don't wear it as an identity. Don't want to be something. That's imbalance. Just let it be, and let the true essence of who you are speak through, through what's going on. Let the mind quieten down all of that different chatter that is negative. 90% or plus is going to be negative in most people, and that's just sapping our life force, our vital energy. And the key thing to realize is that thinking is not consciousness, and they're not the same thing. They are not synonymous. There is no thinking without consciousness, but there is consciousness without thinking. I'm going to let that sit for a bit, or I'll say that again. There is no thinking without consciousness, but there is consciousness without thinking. It's pretty crazy when you think about it a little bit, isn't it? And so what does that ultimately mean is that we are identifying with our thoughts more often than not. And those thoughts are influencing how we feel. And and we can just detach from those thoughts. And what are emotions? Emotions, some people say to me that, hey, I might not be so obsessed with my thoughts, but I'm really stuck in my emotions. I can't shift these emotions. Well, we need to understand that emotions are the reflection in the body of what is happening in the mind. And this is a key point, is if you don't believe in the immaterial, start having angry, crazy thoughts, and you'll start feeling it in your body. That is directly from the immaterial turning the biochemistry in your body and making you feel those emotions that you're feeling. And what is emotion? Where does the word come from? It comes from emovere in Latin, and that basically just means disruption. Okay, so it is like, imagine the cause and the effect, like we were speaking before, from the mental to the physical plane. The mental is the stone dropping into the lake, and we're experiencing the ripples that are crystallizing into this reality. And I'm going to go deeper into how that works later on. But be very conscious that the emotions that you feel and everything in this physical world are the ripple. They're the effect, not the cause. That's really important to understand. But also understanding that the mind cannot solve all these problems alone. The mind is actually the problem. All right, and we identify with the mind too much and don't realize that it is just a tool in our everyday life rather than it being our entire purpose. And we can sit back and we can, through mindfulness techniques, through meditation, we can start understanding that our mind is wild. It's crazy. It chatters away. It does loads of things. And as the more that we can create that detachment, that gap from the mind, we can start experiencing the deeper consciousness and the awareness that will arise from that. And so if we desire to be free of the mind, we have to understand that it's a tool that we can lay down at any moment. And when we want to return to that peace, that concentration, then that is sustainable and it's the source of everything. And that is really what religion was saying, religare, to fight, to connect with the source. Where is all the source of your energy? Where is the oneness? Where is the unity? And where will you feel at peace, at bliss, at calm? And so detach, watch your thoughts, start to understand yourself a little bit better, and your true essence will start bubbling up and appearing all over the place. And you'll have a much more satisfying day. You'll feel connected to everyone, and you'll realize that see yourself in everyone. The universe is mental, and it is all a reflection of everything that's happening inside of you. So soon you'll see those chattering thoughts, and you'll be like, I don't identify with those at all. They're just this crazy childlike thing inside me that's trying to get out and trying to be fed. And the more you give it attention, the more that it's going to live, and the more that you magnify those attentions, and the more that you bring those things into your life. So key to understand that the escaping the mind, escaping the materialism, and looking into something deeper and understanding, that is the key. That is the way to find more fulfillment, and is a key to a lot of other incredible things as well. And so according to these ancient texts, humans fell from grace. Humans were connected to that one source, that one consciousness, and we fell into the physical plane, and we fell into the ego, into the mind, and we got that separation, and we became unconnected to the source, and we got obsessed with ourselves and all these things. We saw ourselves as separate to the universe, rather than seeing ourselves in everyone and treating everyone a little bit nicer. And not just treating everyone nicer, treating ourselves nicer, and having a deeper understanding and relationship with this world, rather than just wants and needs and I got to do this and I got to do that. Slow down, and you'll find a bit more purpose within your life. So the goal is to rise again, rise our awareness, rise our frequency, rise our consciousness. And we can do this by breathing, by calming ourselves. First, we have to see through the clouds of the mind and see that beautiful blue sky. And we also have to know that it's always there if we want to achieve it. So understand that pain is inevitable, and we can see through the clouds, see through the pain, have a deeper sense of the world, and really be connected to everything. And so again, I go back to the initial premise of this video, is science and spirituality getting closer together? And mysticism and science are now starting to uncover very similar things. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. It's the first of many. I'm going to be continuing to release videos, so I'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Let me know if there's something I'm missing. And I'd really love to hear it. So I'm also going to drop in the description the books and the different places that I've been going for this information if you'd like to go a bit deeper on it. But thank you so much, guys. Much love, and we'll see you again soon. See ya. Peace, guys.